So today I wanted to talk about some of the worst habits you can fall into as a guitar player. Maybe some of the worst habits I've fallen into as a guitar player. To be fair, I don't know about you, but there are some bad habits and bad stereotypes of guitar players that I've managed to sidestep, for the most part. One of the common stereotypes among guitar players is that we all play super loud and with no consideration as to what's happening around us. I actually haven't run into that a lot in my life. Every now and again I will, but it usually has something to do with like a monitor mix and basically the player overcompensating for a less than ideal live sound situation. I know I haven't fallen into that trap too much because I'm routinely told that I'm playing too quietly, but I'm only playing too quietly because I'm always worried about fulfilling the stereotype of being too loud. I guess the lesson I've learned over time is that I should really just listen to what people are telling me as opposed to worrying about some sort of bad stereotype of guitar players. In any case, this is less me trying to clear my name of any wrongdoing right before I slander myself, and more that the following habits have definitely affected me in my musical life, and I've seen them affect a lot of other people. If you like what you see here today, please comment, like, subscribe. I really appreciate it. It really helps the channel. And in the description below, there are links to my Patreon, Twitch, Instagram, and website in case you'd like to reach out for some lessons. So let's get into it. Let's start with number 3, not dialing in tones for a band. This doesn't mean that guitarists are doing a bad job of dialing in the most perfect iconic tones of any and every genre they play. This doesn't mean that guitarists aren't obsessing enough about reverb trails and the difference between tape and ducking delay for this one specific section. I'm talking more about the situation of moving from the practice room to the rehearsal room. I don't know if this applies to everyone, but when I'm practicing for a while plugged in, I can grow a little tired of the bridge pickup sound. To me, at least, scales, arpeggios, all these kinds of things just sound a little sweeter on the neck pickup. Or more often, if I'm on a Strat style guitar, positions 5, 4, and 3, and if I'm on like a humbucker, positions 3 and 2 would be my go-to for a practice routine. Especially with some reverb and delay, those tones are really pleasant to listen to for a long period of time. I don't know if you've played arpeggios on the neck pickup with some generous reverb lately, but it sounds really nice. I don't really need a sound that cuts through the mix real well because I'm the only thing in the mix. If I make the mistake of getting too comfortable with that sound and want to use it for everything, when I move from practicing to the rehearsal space, I can get lost in the mix over the sound of the bass, keys, or another guitar player who has a much brighter sound. I might end up playing some gorgeous, big and round, blooming single note line that no one will be able to hear. Sometimes listening to the isolated guitar tracks of famous classic rock songs, which is a thing that's widely available on YouTube, can be really eye-opening as far as seeing just how bright some of those classic tones are. Another way to remedy this issue is to play along with songs with headphones. Having both your dialed-in sound and the recording coming at you, you can really tell if you're fitting in the mix. If I have a super warm jazz tone in this ear and a rock song in this ear, and they're about the same level, I won't be able to hear myself so well over the sound of rock guitar. Now on to number 2, technique. I'm hardly the only person who was inspired by Steve Vai growing up. When I was just getting into guitar, having this dude who was making wacky faces while playing insane guitar was really inspiring. Not so coincidentally, Vai made a 10-hour and then a 30-hour practice routine for people to try. Something that took me a while to realize is that the chops of my heroes are not necessarily the chops that I need. For instance, as far as I can recall, Steve Vai has mainly only played slide on his song Bad Horsey. And even then it wasn't a lot of slide. Meanwhile, I've played more slide in the last 3 years than I have for the rest of my life. And I've needed tapping or 3-note per string shred licks 0 times. If I failed to make that distinction between Vai and myself and just went, well, he's a great player, and this is his regimen, so I'll do the regimen and then I'll be a great player, I'm not sure it would be a bad use of time or a great use of time. It might just be a use of time. Focusing on the right technique is a thing I've seen a lot of people, including myself, struggle with when I'm like practicing my shred licks and then don't spend enough time working on bending or vibrato. Practicing your bending or vibrato might not be as thrilling as seeing just how fast your fingers can move, but when you listen to someone who's just shredding and has no control over their vibrato or bending, it's not that satisfying. And I'm by no means saying don't learn certain techniques. I don't really sweep pick at all, but I spent hours and hours working on it when I was younger because it's a cool sound. Going, hey, that's a cool noise, I wonder if I could make that noise, is totally valid. Just don't forget that technical proficiency isn't just how fast you can play. It's also how long you hold notes, how confident your bending and vibrato are, etc. And lastly, number 1, gear obsession. Now, I don't really know a whole lot about keyboards, but there seems to be like black and red keyboards. And then for acoustic pianos, a lot of them seem like brown or black, maybe? Basically, not a lot of colors. Meanwhile, for guitars, there's Lake Placid blue, navy blue metallic, Daphne blue, regular metallic blue, blue sparkle, sapphire blue transparent, sky burst metallic, blue flower, Mercedes blue, mystic ice blue, sonic blue, faded sonic blue, midnight blue, gunmetal blue, ice blue metallic, imperial blue, blue paisley flames, mystic blue, not to be confused with mystic ice blue, metallic blue, not to be confused with all the other different metallic blues. And that's just from Fender's website. That doesn't include common PRS finishes like whale blue or faded blue smoke burst, but you get the idea. Guitars can be these gorgeous art pieces that bring around a certain feeling or vibe immediately, and it can be very easy to get caught up looking at all of them. Add all the different pickups and finish options and tone woods, etc., and oops, it's bedtime and I forgot to practice. I've absolutely fallen prey to some extreme gas, otherwise known as gear acquisition syndrome, because honestly it's pretty fun to compare 4 different styles of neck humbucker and how they could possibly suit my needs. Sometimes what I honestly need in that scenario is just to be creative with the tools I already have. When I had only one electric, my Eric Johnson Strat with the hot noiseless pickups, I had to try my best to make it fit in every scenario. I hardly nailed it every time, but I certainly learned a lot. Then in my period of trying out a bunch of different guitars, which is a phase I'm still in and slowly growing tired of, I've also learned a lot. Honestly, I'd probably benefit from just trying to make the guitars I have work for every scenario. Although maybe just one more guitar. This point is a huge one that I'm certainly going to try to focus on more. I'm going to make a conscious effort at least to try to focus less on obsessing about gear and more about creating with the tools I have. Because despite having a lot of fun playing with different guitars and different gear and getting to hear all the different sounds they make, I know I do have a deeper fulfillment from making music. So those are my top 3 bad habits that I gotta watch out for, but please feel free to share in the comments section any of the habits that you've come across. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see y'all next week.